أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. 45 minutes.
45 minutes. I don't think.
Munira?
Okay. Our topic today was going to be how to handle responding when Allah, the Quran or the Nabi are insulted.
Yes.
Okay. Now, just like when Aziz presented about that topic on love, and we had a lot of discussion here and a lot of misunderstanding, especially from
The masjid crowd.
no, from what's his name, Rumi.
Yeah.
Mr. Lord,
Mr. Lord,
kept saying, but that's not love, that's not love. So I just want to start from the start here. I want to say that we can't discuss this in these terms, because the concept that is translated as insults or similar in the Quran is much broader and a lot more meaningful, and that's why we won't finish this in one sitting.
No, we will continue.
So we'll be discussing 4 concepts. One is sakhara, sababa, hadaya, and haza'a. I'll come back to it. Those 4 concepts are what's usually translated and intertwined and as insults or mocking and things like that. But we'll get to that. This will allow us to gain a more productive understanding of the subject, because just like other concepts in the Quran, it's been diluted to create a mindset that renders the Muslim Ummah toothless, honestly. And it's you become steeped in wasting time with nonsensical retaliation towards statements that otherwise would have very little effect. Now, the other thing I want to draw attention to here is we must draw a clear distinction between a statement against Allah, the Quran and the Nabi, as opposed to a statement against traditional belief systems that have no basis in Quran. Because you can defend, if someone is making a statement against Allah, the Quran or the Nabi, then you can defend it from the Quran. But when they're making a statement against, I'll give you an example. Okay, I looked through some of the cartoons as I was looking at this. There are cartoons out there of the Prophet depicting him as a pedophile.
Yeah.
Now, someone who accepts the hadith story of the Nabi marrying Aisha when she was 6 and consummating when she was 9, they cannot defend it.
No.
They can't say no, the Nabi wasn't a pedophile.
Yeah.
All they can say is there's nothing wrong with it, quite honestly. But from the Quran, you can tell the people who depicted that, you can say, you know what, that is not what the Nabi was, that is not what the Quran says. So when someone does a cartoon or anything depicting the Nabi in a derogatory sense, most of the time they get that information from the books that we Muslims are generally found in our which was probably a similar thing, and I didn't read the Salman Rushdie thing, but the similar thing is his content, a lot of it from what I've heard came from religious sources.
Yeah.
So we have to draw that distinction, okay? As we'll see shortly, one is a statement against truth, while the other one is a statement against falsehood, and this distinction makes all the difference in how we deal with it, as well as how the truth itself deals with anything that is against it, that being the truth. The truth has a way of dealing with something that is opposed to the truth. And how falsehood is incapable of dealing with anything, because it's not based in any kind of reality. Okay. Now, before we go into any of these concepts that I mentioned, we must also understand what it is that we are required to do to avoid what we must do and what we must avoid in respect of these concepts put forward in the Quran, which we'll go through as we're going along. In the simplest terms possible, we are required to stay away from indulging in these acts, whatever it is that is translated as insults. We must stay away from it. And until we do this, we will not be successful in our endeavors. As it will become clear through the discussion that if we indulge in these concepts, we're not going to be successful in what we do. So we must be very careful of that. But that will come out through the discussion.
You must stay away from?
The concepts of sakhara, sababa, adaya, and haza'a, which are normally translated as insults. I'm talking about us, if we say we believe in the Quran and we want to live by the Quran, we must stay away from these things. We mustn't engage in these things, because if we engage in these things, then we're not going to be successful. There's no way we're going to be successful. Okay, so we'll get the discussion started with the root sakhara and its derivatives as they appear in the Quran. And what I'll do is I'll put forward a few points on this sakhara, and then we'll open it for discussion, and we can do this in turn with each one, rather than me going through all the concepts and then going, right? So I'll go through sakhara, and then we can discuss it, and then we can round off in the end by bringing it all together and determine what kind of response the Quran tells us to make towards these kind of things. Okay. Now, sakhara is usually translated as he mocked, ridiculed, or scoffed, etc. You know,
It is
sakhara. Sakhara. It's usually translated as, you know, to mock, to ridicule, to scoff someone. Now, this meaning only gives a very limited idea of the word, because when we look at the verses where the second form of the verb is used, the second form of sakhara, which would be sakhara, right? We'll find that the proper translation of the root is actually subservient, to make something subservient, or to subjugate someone, or to bring them under domination, to compel them to work without payment.
Humiliate,
yeah.
Push them.
So the meaning pattern of the second form is causative, so it would be, I don't want to go too much in that. Therefore, according to the original, how the original verb is translated, if you take it as he mocked, then the second form would be he caused someone to be mocked. Okay, just so you will see when we look at the verses that this can't really be the true meaning of it. So we'll start with a few examples. I'm going to start with Surah 13 verse 2. You can turn to Surah 13 verse 2.
What verse, sorry?
Surah 13
13,
verse 2. Okay. Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله الذي رفع السماوات بغير عمد ترونها ثم استوى على العرش وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى يدبر الأمر يفصل الآيات لعلكم بلقاء ربكم توقنون. Now, I've got a translation here that I'm going to read, which is actually Yusuf Ali's, because I'm not going to go into every detail of word, and his translation is, Allah is He who raised the heavens without any pillars that you can see. Allah is He who raised the heavens without any pillars that you can see, is firmly established on the throne. He has subjected, Sakhara here is translated by Yusuf Ali as subjected, the sun and the moon to His law. Each one runs for a term appointed. He doth regulate all affairs, explaining the signs in detail, that you may believe with certainty in the meeting with your Lord.
Muhammad Ali got subservient.
Got subservient,
Yeah.
yeah. So subservient or subjected, the same kind of thing. So here, Sakhara is used in terms of subjecting it's used a lot in the sense, not only the sun and the moon, but it's used in the sense of that Allah has made subservient to you everything in the heavens and the earth. Okay,
Yeah.
and it appears in various verses. Okay, so that's what I want. It's about subjugating, bringing it under your control. That's what it seems to me. To cause, this is second form again, so it be to cause it to be under your control. Now, if we look at Surah 21, verse 79. فَفَهَّمْنَا سُلَيْمَانَ وَكُلًّا آتَيْنَا
21:79.
فَفَهَّمْنَا سُلَيْمَانَ وَكُلًّا آتَيْنَا حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَسَخَّرْنَا مَعَ دَاوُودَ الْجِبَالَ يُسَبِّحْنَا وَالطَّيْرَ وَكُنَّا فَاعِلِينَ. Now, okay, I don't want to go into the side issues on this verse because we're dealing with Sakhara. The translation again, I'm using Yusuf Ali just to show the way he's done it, and it's generally done like that. To Solomon we inspired the understanding of the matter. To each we gave judgment and knowledge, talking about Solomon and David. Okay, it was our power made the hills and the birds celebrate our praises with David. It was we who did all these things. Now, we're not going to talk about what this, the hills and things and the birds celebrate in the praises, because it's going to distract us from it. But Sakhara here is translated as our power. It was our power or our subjecting of these things, bringing it under control. Okay, that caused this to happen, where the hills and the birds celebrated our praises with David. Okay, so we're not going to go into but again, it's about bringing it under control, under your power, and subjugating it. Next verse is Surah 22, verses 36 and 37.
Verse
36 and 37. 22, 36, 37.
Yeah.
والبدن جعلناها لكم من شعائر الله لكم فيها خير فاذكروا اسم الله عليها صواف فإذا جبت جنوبها
وجبت
وجبت جنوبها فكلوا منها وأطعموا القانئ والمعتر كذلك سخرناها لكم لعلكم تشكرون. The next verse, لن ينال الله لحومها ولا دماؤها ولكن يناله التقوى منكم كذلك سخرها لكم لتكبروا الله على ما هداكم وبشر المحسنين. Okay, now again here it says, the sacrificial animals we have made for you as among the symbols of Allah, and symbols actually has other meanings, I'm not going to go into it. In them is good for you, then pronounce the name of Allah over them as they line up. When they are down on their sides, eat you thereof and feed such as live in contentment and such as beg with due humility. And I don't agree with that translation either, but it's not important for our discussion here. Thus have we made animals subject to you, that you may be grateful. It is not their meat nor their blood, we were talking about this just now, that reaches Allah. It is your piety that reaches Him. He has thus made them subject to you, that you may glorify Allah for His guidance to you and proclaim the good news to all who do right. So again, it's a matter of subjection in all these different senses. Okay, the next one I'm not going to go. Surah 38 verse 18 is another one that will demonstrate it, if you want to make note of it. The other one is 67 verse 9. You can make a note of it.
What's the 38 what? 38, 18,
let me just go in. 38, 18 and 67 verse 9. You can look that up if you want, and it's the ones in those two is translated as He made it, but the meaning actually of Sakhara there again, He made it like that means He brought it under His power. Allah brought it under His power. Okay. And then 37. Okay, these verses show that mocking, ridiculing, etc. are extremely inadequate meanings of Sakhara. It has a much wider and more meaningful, it's a more meaningful concept. It would be more appropriate to understand it as He subjugated, brought under domination, with a second form meaning that He caused it to be subjugated or caused it to be brought under domination. You guys following what I'm saying here so far? Because sometimes I get a little, there and there and there. Are you guys following it? Yeah. It's okay. Okay. Surah 37 verse 14 says, I'm just going to read the English where it ends with Yastaskirun. That
sorry, which one?
Surah 37 verse 14. It says, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا آيَةً يَسْتَسْخِرُونَ. And when they see a sign, they turn it to mockery. Now, what I want to bring through in Sakhara is this understanding of mockery is very inadequate, because this verse here, when they see a sign, an ayah of Allah, they turn it to mockery. Mockery, if you think of mockery, it's making fun of. But Sakhara is not making fun of. It's trying to
Lower.
to lower it,
Yeah.
which does have the humiliation issue in it, but we'll see that it's a little more than that later on. But it's to try and subjugate. If I am making sakhara of the ayah of Allah, I am trying to bring that ayah of Allah under my control rather than it being under His control. If you understand what I'm saying. Okay?
It's basically like trying to remove the power of that ayah.
Yes, exactly.
To make it weak.
That's right.
And,
Actually, that's a good argument.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Another verse you can make note of. Let me go through it. Is Surah 49, verse 11. It says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin asa an yakunu khayran minhum wa la nisa'un min nisa'in asa an yakunna khayran minhun ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون. O you believe, let not some men among you laugh at others. He translates it as
Scoff.
okay. It may be that the latter are better than the former. Nor let some women laugh at others. It may be that the latter are better than the former. Nor defame, nor be sarcastic to each other, nor call each other by offensive nicknames. Ill-seeming is a name connoting wickedness after he has believed, and those who do not desist are doing wrong. Now, the key in this one that I wanted to bring forward is that, first of all, it's translated as laugh at, but it's talking about, oh, you who believe, don't some of you subjugate and try and bring under control others among you. It may be that they are better than you. And the same thing for women. Okay, for men and for women. And then it talks about what we understand as the nicknames. Don't call them by an offensive name. Okay? And when I do the next verse, I'll expand a little more on this. In fact, I'll go to the next verse and then I'll come back to this verse and tell you how it fits in there. Now, the next verse is very, very interesting. It's a verse that has come up, and I didn't realize that the word used in this verse, which is Surah 43 verse 32, you can turn to it so long, Surah 43 verse 32. I didn't realize the word used in this verse was sakhara, which is translated to mock everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay? But if you turn to it, we'll go through this one in just a little more detail.
43,
32. Has everyone got it? Okay. Okay, it says, and I had a little trouble with this verse initially until I studied it now. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أهم يقسمون رحمة ربك نحن قسمنا بينهم معيشتهم في الحياة الدنيا ورفعنا بعضهم فوق بعض درجات ليتخذ بعضهم بعضا سخرية, that's where the sakhara comes in. وَرَحْمَةُ رَبِّكَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Again, the usual translation here, typical translation, is it they who portion out the mercy of your Lord or your Rabb? It is we who portion out between them their livelihood in the life of this world. And we raise some of them above others in ranks, so that some may, and Yusuf Ali uses for sukhriya, he uses the term command work from others. Okay, so that some may, and another important word there is they all translate it as some may command work from others. But the mercy of your Rabb is better than that which they amass, which they collect. Okay. Now, I had a problem with this verse because you all know my concept regarding the economic stuff is about is about not subjecting other people, and that there must be a level playing field. Now, this verse is always translated as that Allah gives some more than others, raises some in rank above others, and it's all translated so that you may command work from them or subjugate them. They don't translate it as subjugate because
Muhammad Ali does.
does he? Because I actually didn't check his on this.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Assad translates it a little different. He translates it so that you may avail each other of each
Some of
other's
them
help.
may take others in subjection.
Oh,
But
okay.
here it says in service.
Okay.
Well,
And just sorry, let me just see his translation. I should have looked at
They
it.
changed it to service.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
where is
the
it?
older
So,
one.
what does the older one say?
subjection.
And just read it so that just read that section of the translation. I just
Says there that some of them may take others
Okay.
in subjection.
now.
That's not
Yeah.
a Quranic principle.
Yeah, and that's why it changed here, I think. Okay, because they would say that some of them may command work from others. Okay.
Yusuf Ali said,
Now the
Yeah.
problem with this translation, I could be wrong, but as far as I've looked, and maybe you'll be able to look into it a little more, Aziz, is that they all seem to insert this word "may do
Yes,
this"
yeah.
to give it.
Did you check Parvez on it?
Yeah, I read Parvez, but Parvez is not a translation. He gives
It's
you
an
the explanation,
explanation.
the exposition.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to. So you may do this. Now I don't see that being there. Okay, I would say that Allah has raised some above others. Okay, so that some of you subjugate others. There's no reason in the Arabic that I've seen, and my knowledge is a little limited on it. Okay, but from what I've studied and looked, there's no may in there, no permission. When you say that some of you may do this, you are saying you have permission to do this. Okay, Allah is saying that He provides for everyone.
Yes,
He provides a livelihood.
This
Right?
part
That's
of the
the
verse
context.
is very important.
Okay, He provides a livelihood.
Yeah.
Okay, in the life of this world, and He raises some above others in rank. Okay, so and then they command work from each other, or they subject other people, because Allah has given them this maybe a bit more. Okay, and they subject others. So the key here for me is that all the translations that are saying that so that some may do this, in other words, giving them permission to do this, are in
Yeah.
contradiction with the entire concept of the Quran.
Yes, I
You are
agree.
not allowed to subject people. You are not allowed to subjugate people.
No.
Like Allah has taken the heavens and the earth and subjugated it and
And made it useful to us.
Yeah. So He has brought it. It's under His control ultimately.
Yeah.
But He says He has put it under our control. Right? We cannot take people and put them under our control. Okay. So what this verse is saying is not Allah has given you different ranks so that you may subjugate others, but Allah has given people different ranks, and people then subjugate others because they think, look, I've got a lot. You work for me, minimum wage, whatever, however they want to do it, or slavery, whatever it is. We are not allowed to do this kind of subjection now.
question we'll discuss in question time.
Yeah, no, it's going to come now. I'm at the end here. And look, this meaning of Sahara went a little bit off just because I noticed it, so I thought I'll bring it up here. So now that's the end of the Sahara part of it. So we'll open it up for discussion. So just to summarize it, is that we find Sahara translated in terms of when Allah talks about the moon and the stars and how He subjugated it, then all these translators translate it as subjection, subjugation. When it comes to the ayahs of the verses of Allah or the signs of Allah, these translators, most of them start translating it as mocking. Whereas what the verse is saying is that they're not just mocking it. If someone makes fun of it, it's, what's making fun of it? They are trying to subjugate those signs of Allah. They are trying to make those signs of Allah mean what they want it to mean. They want to bring the ayah under their control rather than it being under Allah's control. That's my understanding of it. And again, like I said here, in the economic terms, they try to make it seem as though it's okay to subjugate people. Well, Allah is saying that no, I give you have different levels of whatever you want to consider the darajat to be. And what do you do with this? You go and subjugate people. And then Allah says, they subjugate people, but the mercy of Allah, the rahmah of Allah, is better than all that they amass. Because people who amass things are the ones who subjugate people. Okay, so basically in terms of sakhara, my understanding is that to mock and to laugh and to scoff, I can see how the meaning got there, but the meaning is deeper. It's not just about, so when they're making fun of the ayahs of Allah, the verses of Allah, when they mock in the verses of Allah, they are actually trying to
Give it their own meaning.
give it their own meaning.
Yes.
They are trying to bring it under
Yes.
their domination and their
Yes.
control. That's why they asked the Nabi, I don't remember the verse, that you must change it a little.
Yes,
That's
yes.
a typical example. It's mentioned in the Quran.
The whole hadith about they went to Umar and said he must go and
Yeah.
argue with the Nabi about it.
So, and in the Quran it says that they asked him to change it and he won't.
yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
So I don't know, I think we can open it up a little.
But just before we get to the
that.
discussion, sorry Iqbal, you can come in. That verse, the last one that you did.
Yeah.
Let's read that English again.
What, from Yusuf Ali or?
No, from Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
Let's read it again.
Okay.
And let's give it another twist without changing any words.
Okay.
Right? Just read that thing.
Do they apportion the mercy of thy Lord? We portion out among them their livelihood in the life of this world. And we exalt some of them above others in rank, that some of them may take others in service.
Stop there.
Okay.
Stop there. First of all, we agree wherever the Quran talks about giving others a higher rank or darajat.
Yeah.
It's more
Responsibility.
more responsibility in that sense. If you take that in that sense, and you say that so that they will take others in subjection, not that they will subjugate others, but they will become subject themselves because that they have the added responsibility. They become subject themselves to others.
Yeah.
See, maybe
For example,
the choice of the English word, it doesn't give it that meaning, but that's how I would understand it.
Yeah, now I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because see, the more responsibility you have, the more duties you have to fulfill to mankind.
Yeah.
If Allah gives you more money, as a crude example, then that more money must be used to help mankind. So your responsibility to mankind increases with your wealth, with your rank, with your darajat. Right? Not that you should be so. And because, you see, I have a lot of respect for guys like Muhammad Ali and all that. Not that they're perfect. You should have explained that thing a little bit more in that. And I think that's what he meant. He meant that those who have the additional responsibility should be subjected by those who do not have.
Right, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, actually, it would be interesting to look at that Arabic a little more carefully.
That's right, yes.
Ba'dahum, and then ba'd, and ba'dhum, and then ba'd. It doesn't necessarily mean that the first one and the second one.
No.
And there's no first one. It doesn't necessarily mean
one against the other.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that the one who is got a higher responsibility or even call it a higher rank, it doesn't mean that they are the ones that must subject others. It could mean that they must be subjected by the circumstances of the other one.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Still on this insulting of the Prophet. And
We're discussing the one term.
So, but we're just using the one term. We're going to come to the other terms, inshallah, next week or so.
Now, I'd just like to make a note that during Ayatollah Khomeini's time, he put a price on someone who's dead.
Yeah.
And then those people that feel that they love the Prophet, like my late father, Ashik Rasul, you feel justified in killing the guy.
Yeah, no, we're going to
come to that. Yeah.
Dollars was a bonus.
Now, I think what we'll do is the terminology is going to take us a little off track, and at the end we'll bring it all together about what insults actually mean and what the Quran says about how you respond to those insults.
What is surprising that the Sunni leaders or states said nothing or they just accept, they ignored it.
They might have been right actually, but we'll come back to that.
Yes,
Munira?
No, I'm good.
Musawa?
What? Mustafa?
I'm thinking about this.
He's thinking about the
Economics.
Yeah.
I'm also, that's,
Okay.
Ask them about incentives.
Okay,
Doesn't it show the...
No, you don't have Musab, I want to ask.
Look,
We started,
just hold on, sorry, we need to carry on. Why don't we, when we do the Q&A with Ridwan, then we'll bring up the economic side of it.
Yeah.
I knew it might happen.
No, that will happen.
But I had to bring up the term sakhara and what it means. Now, let me just see. Aziz, did you have anything?
Yeah, I just want to refer everybody to chapter 3, verse 78. It's on the subject, but it gives you a uniform command from Allah about subjugation. 378, correct?
Yeah.
Ma kana li basharin an yutiyahu Allahu
The
al-kitab.
wrong one. Maybe it's one.
no, it's right.
79.
No.
Or maybe 79.
Okay, 79.
والحكم والنبوة ثم يقول للناس كونوا عبادا لي من دون الله ولكن كونوا ربانيا بما كنتم تعلمون الكتاب وبما كنتم تدرسون. Right? It is not meet, it is not correct for a mortal, for a bashar, that Allah should give him the book and the judgment and the prophethood and the nubuwah. That means authority, right? Then he should say to men, be my servants rather than servants of Allah, right? Be worship of the Lord because of your teaching the book and your reading, right? This verse clearly brings about the emancipation of any kind of slavery and subjugation.
Yeah, because which gift of Allah is greater than that of Nabuwa and of Wahi?
The Wahi and book and all.
It's the
That's
greatest
one.
gift that they can have,
Exactly.
and
Right?
they are commanded that there will be no subjugation, even though
Even
you have
though
the
you have
highest
that.
office.
Yeah.
So basically, if you have wealth or high rank or very educated, don't use that as an excuse to
Oh, yeah.
subjugate.
Subjugate others.
Exactly.
Where being a Nabi is the highest of
The highest rank.
Okay, so
So I just thought I'd bring that in to give it, so that we can't, when we are discussing why not this and why not that, keep that verse in mind.